Do. Very exciting. And remember, this feels very fast, so. Alright, so welcome to Bronze Bootcamp. This is hosted by the Trinity Force Network every Saturday at noon Eastern Time. We have 3 games, so noon, 1, and 2 p.m. roughly. Little different for people in other time zones, but the Trinity Force Network operates mostly in Eastern Time, so I hate to say get used to it, but I would get used to it. As I mentioned previously, it is hosted by the Trinity Force Network. The place I would go to check that out is trinityforcenetwork.com. I'll copy and paste it into the chat for those who may not know how to get there. A lot of exciting stuff going on the network, going to the tournament in Ohio. We talk about that on episode 287, which is also a Patreon episode with Dark Rico. His name is Corey, so let's call him Corey. Also, LCS Rundown, currently in the playoffs of the LCS summer season, so I would check that out. They released an episode this week, and Forwards every Thursday. New episode 25 should be up, so I would check the feed for that. If you're interested in checking out Battle Arena stuff, hit the Battle Arena tab. It has a link to the Twitch, has a link to the YouTube, has a link to the wonderful sign-up sheet, and as you'll see, this is where I'm inviting people for the games. I invite everybody at once, so it is first come, first serve, and watch your invites. I sent these out at 11:55, and it filled within a minute or two. So, if you feel like supporting the network, you can also check out the 50 times it says Patreon on the page. A lot of good stuff there. So, won't overload you. We'll get into the first game. Alright. So, usually in Bronze Bootcamp, personally, I think that, the best thing you can do is just pick champions you're comfortable on and you're good on. Counter picking's really, really overrated unless you play the counter pick well, and often that's not the case. The 2 things I think people really do need to avoid are first picking something that's really susceptible to counter pick, or picking into a really bad matchup. And you'll see right here, he first picked Veigar. Veigar can really struggle against AD lanes occasionally. His ult relies on the other person having some ability power, especially early game when you can't just one-shot AD champions as well. And Veigar kind of is a mid. He is a mid to early late game champion. So if you don't get a lead early mid, he can kind of fizzle out. Late game when everybody has Banshees, he falls off. He doesn't fall off, but he certainly struggles more. Katarina is a really difficult pick into Veigar too. If Veigar plays it well, it's a pretty big counter pick, and that's the other thing I talked about, is purposely counter picking yourself. The Katarina picked into a pretty rough matchup here. She does have the potential to outplay it, but it's a difficult lane. Good skill matchup for both of them though. I'm excited to see it. Top lane, we have Riven and Cho'Gath. Riven and Cho'Gath basically comes down to the fact that Riven really needs to use her abilities to trade effectively, and if Cho hits her with W, she can't. So, a lot of it comes down to just silence usage on Cho'Gath's part. If Cho'Gath silences her on top of creeps and then Qs her and then just ends the trade, the Riven really struggles. If he doesn't, and the Riven dodges Cho'Gath's W with an E, or Cho'Gath tries to lead with Q and misses it, or something like that, then the Cho'Gath is kind of in a difficult spot in the matchup. That being said, Cho'Gath can either go an AP item like Morelos or Rod of Aegis, or he can go right into the Frozen Heart. If he goes straight into Frozen Heart, it's really, really hard for him to lose the lane. It's really hard for him to win the lane, but oftentimes not dying to Riven is pretty useful. So, if you're not comfortable in this matchup, feel free to go Frozen Heart. But Rod isn't a bad choice. Morelos isn't a bad choice. Let's look. We talked about mid. We talked about top. So bot lane, we have Sivir Blitzcrank against Jinx Nami. Pretty interesting lane. I mean, it's a pretty simple lane. There's not a lot to get into. If like the Blitz hits hooks on Nami or Jinx, it's going to be a really difficult lane. If the Blitz doesn't hit hooks, then he's just going to get out-sustained by Jinx Nami. The really important note here is Jinx and Nami both don't have escapes, and they don't really have a way to play around Flash E from Blitzcrank. And that can be really scary when you're playing against Katarina and Zac, because if you get ganked and Blitz Flash E's, you die. Like the Nami and the Jinx just die. And that's something we see quite a bit. I was actually watching one of Daze's Sona games last night, and she just died because the Blitz flashed. So it does happen on occasion. If anybody else out there in chat has questions about this game, league in general, or just wants to tell me about their day, feel free to keep me entertained. From the looks of it, this is going to be a solo cast today, so unless somebody else shows up, I'm really relying on you guys for company, so on and so forth. It's going to be difficult to talk continuously for 60 minutes, but I think I can handle it. Hey, Horse and everybody. Hello, Paces. So, talked a little bit about the lanes. We'll talk about jungle matchup. Rek'Sai has a lot of pressure early. Zac doesn't have a ton of pressure early, but he has really good ganks early. He kind of falls into the camp of like Jungle Rammus and Jungle Nautilus. And it's not a bad camp to be on. Playing a tank and being able to gank is actually really nice. And I play a lot of Jungle Rammus and Jungle Nautilus for that reason. But Zac can struggle if you don't get one or two ganks off early because he gets a little gold starved. So like Zac just wants to gank in this matchup. And Rek'Sai can kind of pressure through gank, counter jungling or 2v2. But counter jungling is like the least effective way to pressure the map. You really, like in the new jungle, since Season 4, if you counter jungle somebody, you're not getting any more experience because you could just be farming that camp in your own jungle. You're often getting less because you're wasting time to walk over there. And if they just take another camp, it's usually like the same amount of EXP. I think counter jungling is pretty bad right now. I really wish Riot would do something about it, but so unless you really, really pressure their jungler, or you don't have any other plays on the map, but that's often not the case. So at 6, this matchup changes a little bit. Zac continues to gank. His ganks actually get better. Rek'Sai's ganks don't get a lot better, but his pressure increases. And Rek'Sai is just somebody who can pressure the map a ton. He can gank top. He can ult. He can gank bot. I don't know. Like, if the Zac just gets ganks off, he does fine in this matchup. If the Zac doesn't get ganks off and the Rek'Sai just pressures the map too much, it's difficult. Sivir versus Jinx is kind of interesting. She could negate the ult and the W and the E. And I actually talked about this in one of the 4 Wards episodes I was on. As a Sivir player, you really don't want to mash the first thing you see with spell shield sometimes. You want to think about like going to the trade, what is the most important thing I need to spell shield. So like if you're getting into if Jinx drops chompers, you don't just want to walk into them with spell shield sometimes, because you know you might get eat or you might get ulted. And I don't know, it's important to think about the play. It's a lot easier to react to stuff if you're preemptive and you've kind of like thought about the situation in your head like briefly beforehand, as opposed to just relying purely on human reaction time, which is, I don't know, a little more difficult. So, we're loading into game. As far as win conditions for each team are concerned, Zac is one of the better champions at ganking mid. And I'm going to make this point right now. If you play a champion who's really good at ganking mid, Zac is really good at ganking mid, Maokai is really good at ganking mid. There's some other champions that are, and there's some that aren't. An example of a champion that isn't good at ganking mid oftentimes is like Udyr, because Udyr really struggles in the short lane without a gap closer. Unless he flash bears, then it's okay. So we have Zac, who's really good at ganking mid, and we have a Katarina. That kind of seems like the obvious place to start for me. And like the win condition for this team is Zac can snowball any of his lanes. He has Cat that snowballs, he has a Riven that snowballs, and he has Blitz Saber, which is a ton of CC. So the screen is actually black. I'll fix it for you guys. Is there a timer that the non-Jinx, non-Viger has to beat? They scale really hard, right? Viger doesn't scale as hard as people think. He hits mid-game and he hits early, late game really hard. But he really struggles when people start to stack Banshees. And this is a pretty good team to stack Banshees against with Viger Cho'Gath. So, I don't know. Like, Viger usually has a window. Viger has like a really similar window to Fiddlesticks, because Fiddlesticks kind of has the same issue, where you have from like 15 minutes until like 45 minutes to win the game. And that's usually enough. That's most of the game in League of Legends oftentimes. But Viger doesn't like scale infinitely. And Nasus has the same issue. Like, you think he scales infinitely because of his Q, but oftentimes when you get to like late game and everybody has Mikhails and Quicksilver Sash and stuff, you can never wither anything and you just kite it out, and it doesn't matter if you have 800 stacks or not. So, like, just remember, just because like a skill scales infinitely, it doesn't mean the champion does. You really need to think about the kit. Like Nasus, his Q scales, but like his W doesn't scale. His W, as soon as people buy QSS and Mikhails, it gets way worse because it just gets canceled. His E, flat damage, flat resists, doesn't scale. Really good mid-game. Actually, amazing mid-game. His ultimate, percentage health, which kind of scales, but it's magic damage. So as soon as people have kind of stacked magic resist, it doesn't scale anymore. So, like, I don't know. I hate to say circle jerk, but don't circle jerk too hard on one skill that scales. Even if you go to champion.gg, if you look at Nasus, his win rate goes down after like 35 or 40 minutes. He's just kind of like shitty in team fights. I hate to say it. Especially at a high level. And Viger's kind of the same. He's not shitty in team fights. He's actually pretty good all game, but he's most effective from like that 15 minutes to the 45 minutes. When you have kill pressure before they have like 4 Banshees fails. And Cat, the one thing I'd make note of is if you're playing against Viger, it's really important to pick up Mercury Treads. So that's something you should actively do. Not only does the magic resist help, if you have the extra tenacity, it's really hard for Viger to hit W off when you're in stun. Unless he W's before stun, or he's like a Viger god. Yeah, Nasus is like a Juggernaut. I'm surprised Nasus didn't get reworked in the Juggernaut patched, because he certainly fits into that category. Well, a common pick I see in like my games, or I haven't seen as much this season, but I've certainly seen it in the past, is people will pick Trundle into Nasus, and if you just pillar Nasus in team fights and ult him, like what do you do as Nasus? It takes you so long to walk around Trundle Pillar, you just die. And Viger, you really need to be auto-attacking Katarina here. Like, if she walks up here and you auto-attack her, the only... Like, if she even wants to trade with you, she takes, like, 3 caster creeps. And she automatically loses the trade. So, like, anytime somebody's... I hate to say stupid enough, but if they sit on top of your caster creeps... Just hit them. If they hit you back, you win the trade because they're taking caster damage. So, see Cho'Gath pushing in early. Riven got a pink ward. I'm not so sure about that either, but we'll touch on that. And Silver Blitz pushed in. This is actually not what you want to do as blitz most of the time. You really want to be careful pushing, because if you hook them out from under tower, it's really hard to get kills. But if you freeze lane in the middle, you kind of have some room to work with. And you'll kind of see right here. This isn't bad. Like, that's not bad, but if it was here, it would have been better. And I did not see what happened there. The notes I'll make... I didn't see if Cho'Gath popped health pot or not, but Riven didn't pop health pot. So, like, even though Riven won that trade, or you get a kill in a lane, remember to look at things like that, because, I mean, oftentimes you'll just get away with more than you should in low elo. So, like, from Riven's point of view, you didn't use any of your health pots, and you got a kill. Like, it's great that you got a kill, but you really need to use your health pots. And Rek'Sai ganked mid. So this is actually pretty bad. If you watch Rek'Sai's point of view, he's playing red team, or he's playing on red. We'll look at what blue saw. When he walks out here on vision of Katarina's creeps, she knows exactly where he's going to be on the map next. Whereas if Rek'Sai walks here, and then goes into his jungle or something like that, then the Katarina and her team don't really know where Rek'Sai is going to go. Because he's lost vision of her creeps, and he could go into this jungle, he could go into this jungle, and he can go wherever you want. But if you like directionally show where you're gonna go when you're on a creep wave, that's not great. Oh, you see me. Rip. Did I hit a keybind or something? I'm sorry. Alright, tell me if that happens again. I don't know why it happened, but tell me if it does happen again. My camera's not even centered. I wasn't planning to use it this morning. So, if you guys do have any questions in this chat, you play any of these champions, you have questions about these matchups, feel free to ask as well. This is going to be a long game, so the more conversation points I can get, the better. And Blitz and Sivir are pushing. And this isn't bad, but like as you can see, the Nami and the Jinx are just sustaining. And the Blitz really doesn't have a lot of great hooks to get here. When he tried to go back and show Rek'Sai's point of view. Oh, it's because I was using the F keys. I think they're bound to an OBS scene. Rip. Alright, so we're not going to get point of view for the rest of this game. But I will fix it. Cho, big thing is when you recalled, I don't know if you had enough for an item or not. I'm going to assume you had enough for at least a cloth armor. So you should have bought at least a cloth armor. You came back to line with that lane with no items and Riven killed you. You also really need to expect when Riven gets a CS advantage on you. This is like the absolute worst time to die. If you take Ignite in a lane, you never ever want to die when your wave is on tower like this, because you can't TP back. And this Cho's just getting EXP starved even more. Like, that is why Ignite isn't taken a lot. It's so feast or famine, because if you lose lane, whoa. That's a good stun. If you lose lane, they just shove into tower and you can never reset experience. How to counter Riven with Rengar. I would say in low elo, wait for the Riven D's ability to farm, because they're probably going to. When did this game start? Roughly 7 minutes ago. Game 2 will be next. We'll see how many people are here for Game 3. LCS is on today, so we'll see. So, the Veigar are short shoes, which isn't bad. Personally, I don't like it. He's coming to lane with no health pots against a Katarina. I don't play the summoner names. I'll fix that, though. Against a Katarina who has Q poke. So, he basically, if you do this as Veigar, you need to do something really fast. And he also has 5 mana pots, which, I hate to say never do something, but you should never buy 5 mana pots on Veigar. Does he have stun? No. That's good. Hopefully they were doing that on purpose and giving it to Jinx. That's not good. No. I mean, as Rek'Sai, just respect the fact that you need the 3 people there. You're going for the warrior build and you're squishy. And that is one thing you have to get used to if you play with the warrior build on like Rek'Sai or Olaf or Skarner. And I do play warrior and Juggernaut on all 3 of these champions. Whoa. Just getting used to the fact that you are squishy early game. So, I mean, that's kind of how you do it on Riven. If you flash W, they really don't have counterplay. Because even if Cho'Gath silences right there, you just Q on top of him. And there's really not a lot he can do. It was also good, I don't know if she did it on purpose or not, she did it up here. So even if Cho'Gath does have flash, he has nowhere to flash to at that point. The one thing Cho'Gath could have done is he could have flashed instantly and just tried to range Q after he silenced, and he may have made it out, but I still don't think so. The other thing, if you're losing lane on this badly on Cho'Gath, you really don't want to go Rod of Ages. If you can't finish Rod until 20, it's pretty bad. So, like at this point, maybe scrap it and go Catalyst, or just start turning this Sapphire Crystal into a Frozen Heart and leave the Ruby Crystal in your inventory. And I talked about the Cho'Gath builds before the game. I think the Morelos, the Rod, and the Frozen Heart are all fine. If you do find yourself 0-1 in a lane to somebody like Riven, you immediately go for the Frozen Heart build. So, I mean, Veigar wasted stun and 3 people went top. The important thing here is I don't know if the Zach could have reacted or not. That might just be free. Usually it shouldn't be free. 3 people go top like that though. So, Zach is here. The thing he needs to be cautious about is Rek'Sai used Prey Seeker, and he didn't see if Rek'Sai had vision of him or not, and he has no way to tell. And like that was completely blind, but he has no way of knowing that's blind. So, like, as Zach right now, what you want to do is probably just clear this and recall. I would assume if I was playing Zach that this is warded. And I just need to play really cautiously. And the longer I stay near this ward and kind of near this like part of the map, the more pressure I lose. And it isn't warded, once again. But sometimes you just have to like assume stuff like that is warded if Rek'Sai shoots a Prayer Seeker like that. So, good run bot, kind of what Katarina does. Once again, I talked about the gank assist of a Blitzcrank lane. Really, really hard to play against some supports like Nami, supports like Sona. So, Jinx also struggles in this lane if she doesn't do pretty well in CS against Sivir. So, like most AD carries, if you're going to play hyper carry, or you're going to play a character that really wants to get through mid game, like Jinx really kind of comes online at 4 items. She does pretty well at 2, but she really likes 4. Or you play Orianna, who's pretty strong at 1 and then pretty strong again at 3 or 4, but she can sit on that second one for a long time if you're not farming well. Like, if you play a hyper carry and you're not proficient in CSing, you can't expect to do very well. I mean, any champion in this game you need to be able to CS well, but hyper carries, it's really, really important, because oftentimes they don't have that strength in lane you can fall back on to just, kill your opponent and get gold lead that way. So, like 99% of the time I like CDR boots on Riven. This is one game I would go Mercury Treads. They have Nami, Bubble, Veigar, Stun, and Cho'Gath. The Mercury Treads are going to reduce the Cho'Gath silence, they're going to reduce the Veigar stun, and they're going to reduce the Nami bubble. They're also going to provide magic resist from a team that's essentially double AP with an AP support, so I would really look for those. I would tab and show you guys vision right now, but I don't want it to go full screen in my face again. From what I can see here, the red team is quite a bit more, and the blue team's wards are very defensive. Kind of weird considering that the blue team is winning so hard. If you are winning this hard, it's good to be more aggressive with your wards. And Zach has broken E range now. That was a really good teleport. And this is kind of what you want to look to do as a top lane. When you're winning lane, you just want to shove lane out as hard as you can and try and TP bot. and or look for TPs, because like if you shove lane out in here, right here, the Cho'Gath has to choose between farming in his tower or like following with TP, and in this case the Cho'Gath can't even follow with TP, so. But played some top this season on my way to Masters, and like the biggest takeaway I had from playing top and other roles was how TP reliant top lane is right now. If you get good TPs, you carry from top. If you don't get good TPs, oftentimes you just end up in games where you can play good or you can play bad, but you really don't have a ton of control of the outcome of the game. But I mean, if you TP well, you always have control over the outcome of the game. And this is pretty rough from Veigar. Blue team may or may not have had a timer on it. I'm not sure if they had vision of it at the time, but taking TP mid, and sometimes you'll see professional players do it on Diana and stuff. It isn't to TP back to lane. It's to pressure and gank bot. And I actually didn't harp on the Veigar taking TP in this matchup too much, because the TP is actually pretty good to follow Katarina in this matchup. And you see some, like I play a lot of Twisted Fate, and sometimes like if I play somebody on Twisted Fate, they'll take TP to follow me on Twisted Fate. As Twisted Fate, similar to Katarina, goes bot lane a lot. But Veigar didn't use it in the matchup in that way. He used it to continuously TP mid over and over again, and it really doesn't do anything if you use it like that. So, what should red team be doing right now to come back? The Cho'Gath needs to push out and look for plays from his point of view. They're in a difficult spot. I would say they need to shut down bot and ward out the backside so it doesn't get dove. Basically they need to be playing safe. And when you play safe, the other team, the option that you give them is diving you. So warding out dives and kind of playing around dives is the most important thing they can do right now. And then hoping that if they ward out one of those dives, or they play safe enough, that they have enough CC to punish the other team for being stupid. If you end up with a comp like this, oftentimes like one of your better comeback mechanisms is just hoping the other team does something stupid and then punishing them with like Nami bubble, Nami wave under tower. Sometimes like I do give the advice to force fights when you're behind to come back, because oftentimes they just continue to fall more and more behind. But they are so behind right now, I really don't think there's a fight that they could win. And this kind of comes back to playing safe and punishing. The red team played safe here, and they just punished with Nami. So even though the Jinx and Nami are really far behind, playing safe and punishing is really effective right there. Rek'Sai really needs to get tunnels in an area too. Do you think low yellow players should take TP or Ignite for lane pressure? So I think TP is almost always better. I think there's certain champions you don't take TP on because they're like going to roam anyways. Like you don't take TP on Rengar just because you're gonna ult mid and ult bot on Rengar anyway, so it doesn't matter. But like we'll look at a couple scenarios. If you there's so many. Like if you have TP and you lose lane, you can't freeze. Like this Cho'Gath, if he had TP when he lost lane, he could freeze here and TP down and deny this Riven. He can no longer do that because he doesn't have TP. If you start to lose lane early, you can just recall and come back with like a bunch of pots and only lose 5 farm if you have TP. If you have Ignite, you can no longer do that. I don't know. I would say always take Ignite. Horse, kick that guy. What happened? If somebody lets me know what happened, I mean I can do something, but unfortunately Riot doesn't give me God mode in custom games, so we'll see. So like TLDR, Lancer, you give up so much not taking TP over Ignite, and then even if you win your lane, winning with Ignite is 100 times better with winning TP, because then you can transition your lead into the rest of the map. Like, Ignite is only, I don't know. I would never recommend Ignite. I really can't ignore it. There are a couple champions you can take Ignite on though, like Rengar and Exhaust are. I mean, Ignite and Exhaust are fine on Rengar. But like once again, the reason you don't take TP on Rengar is because Rengar's already like essentially TPing on the map. But I really think TP needs to get nerfed. In all honesty, it shouldn't be that clear-cut a decision. Like, I play a lot of Hecarim. This is how broken TP is. If I'm playing Hecarim, and if I pick into a losing lane, all I have to do is go in and, like, shove that lane with Q over and over again, and pop my 3 flash charges, like, instantly, and shove it in a tower, and then I recall. And then it's no longer a losing lane. Because TP is, like, I don't know, TP is just a broken spell. And you can do that in bad matchups with TP. You just push. And as long as you don't die when you push, you get it in a tower, you have like 1/3 health, you teleport back, and you're fine. You really need to buy a ward when you do that, because as soon as you TP, if you get ganked, you can really get punished. So it's really important every time you TP back that you do have a ward. But I'm not sure that is how much that is happening in Bronze and Silver as well. I know in higher level games, if you see somebody TP, it's pretty good to gank them, because you know that like if you gank somebody and they die and they TP back, they don't lose farm. If you gank somebody and they die and they don't have TP, they lose a lot of farm. Red team needs to practice CS. Blue team has almost double their CS. I think everybody in their team. I mean, everybody in this game needs to practice CS. The only person with a decent CS number is Riven, but I can't talk. That number is really inflated. The Riven had okay CS in lane, but like once you get Hydra, it's not hard to have good CS. In what way would I nerf TP? I would make it 1 flat cooldown. I wouldn't make it a reduced cooldown for TPing the towers. I think having TP as a way to pressure the map is really cool, but TP shouldn't be something where you can buy Flask on a champion, shove the first 2 waves in a tower in a losing lane, pop all 3 flash charges so you don't die and just TP back. Like, that's not interesting at all. And you don't get punished because the TP cooldown's so short. If you TP back to tower, they aren't going to call Dragon before 5:30, so, or 6 minutes. They might, usually they don't though. But I like TP as a map spell. I don't like TP as a, I don't know. I can't lose lane now, because I can just TP back with Flask or like 5 pots and shove wave in a tower. So Zach is going for Spirit Visage here. Okay, bye. Actually, no, he has an Aegis on Blitzcrank, so that's fine. I've kind of ranted about TP for a bit. So, Blitzcrank really needs to look at boots and mobility here. Swifties don't really do a lot. Let's count the slows on the other team. I mean, they have a couple, but they don't have enough to warrant it. Mercs would even be better than Swifties here. So, like, Swifties are just, I don't know. I've never bought them in a game. I really can't see any reason to ever buy them on any champ. That's in Udyr, Blitzcrank. It doesn't matter. They're terrible. I mean, I guess if you're playing Udyr and into like Janna and Ashe, then it might be okay because of how many slows they have. But Mobies are quite a bit better in support. Like support, you win by pressure. You win by pressure of roam. You win by lane pressure. You win by the ability to pressure the map with wards, and you only have so much time to do all of those things, and Boots and Mobilities let you do all of those things a lot better. Stream's lagging bad for me, might just be my end. Like one of the biggest things you need to do when you see a Veigar in the game is not panic. You need to kind of know what you're going to do against Veigar's stun. That's kind of one of the things I talked about, how hard they can punish this CC. Wow. Alright. So, as blue team, really need to be working on CS. if you can't last hit, it's really hard to come back in games, and it's also harder to get lead in a game. Like 16-ish CS is equal to a kill. It's a little bit more because of the EXP, you often lose an kill and stuff like that, but just like this Riven looks like she's 8. That's not an example. Everyone's so far ahead, wow. Alright, so this Katarina looks like she's the same amount of kills as Veigar. And we're gonna look at their gold right now. Excluding global objectives, it's 2,000. I mean, it's 2,000 gold. We'll exclude global objectives of 2 towers, so we'll say like 1,500. It's not even 1,500. But why does the Katarina have so much gold in Veigar? One is assists, so we'll exclude those two. But the 60 CS lead she has is like the same as 4 kills. So, question in chat. If you start building Roa and lose lane, do you finish building it, or you stop and try and get a thing that doesn't take long to scale? So, in this game, Cho'Gath specifically, when he was losing lane, he had a Ruby Crystal and a Sapphire Crystal. If he's losing lane this badly, and I pointed this out earlier, I would have gone the Sapphire Crystal and built it into a Frozen Heart to deal with Riven, and then you can build the Ruby Crystal into something later. So, Roa is a nice thing because Sapphire Crystal and Ruby Crystal build into so many things. If something bad happens, you can change your mind. Or you can even sit on Catalyst and you can build it into Glory later and you can start building Glacial Shroud, or you can do a lot of things with it. But if you're 0-2, 0-3 with Roa, I would really recommend not finishing it. Unless you're, like, if you're mid lane Karthus, you have to finish it. But if you're like top Cho'Gath who can build a lot of things, then maybe not. And don't feel bad. I gave a very shorthand explanation earlier, so it was good for me to kind of iterate on it. So blue team's doing a good job at creeping their wards forward, and that's really what they need to be doing in this situation. The thing that it can really be punishing right now is the fact that the red team only has 1 sweeper. And it's really the Rek'Sai's job. It's jungler's job, if you don't see anyone else buying a sweeper, to get the second sweeper. If you fall behind and you don't have the ability to clear wards out of your own jungle, you can really, really suffer. And the Rek'Sai is splitting some. He's gonna get punished really hard. So, like, from the Rek'Sai's point of view, you really have no reason to be making this play. And you need to be tunneling back to base as fast as you can. So this is what they need to do. They need to punish some of CC under towers. But, they didn't. The most important thing you need to respect when you're playing against like Katarina or Kha'Zix, if you're kind of squishy, you need to respect that anytime you're a reset target, you need to leave the fight. And this is something like I run into playing normals a lot, even with like plat and gold and low diamond players, is they'll stay in a fight with really low health against Katarina and Kha'Zix because, I don't know, they want to keep team fighting or something. And in most games, that's fine. In most games, even if you die, if they use CC on you, the rest of their team can punish them. But against a Katarina, it's not. Against a Katarina or Kha'Zix or like a Darius, you need to respect that anytime she can reset you, you have to leave the fight. You just recall and go to base, or if you have lifesteal, start lifestealing a camp. The 2 times this isn't true are 3. If you can flash Katarina's E really quickly, relies on reaction time, you can pop your Zhonya's really fast, or you have fast CC and you're trying to bait Katarina. But if you can't do one of those 3 things and Katarina can reset you, you're, I don't know. Like, your team is a gem mat and you're basically like a vault at that point, and you're just like vaulting Katarina onto your team to kill everybody. Gymnast metaphor. So, have you played against the new Juggernauts? Do you think any of them are OP like I do? I think Darius is terrible. I think Garen is okay, and I think Skarner is broken. So, I think Darius is absolutely god-awful. I think I underrated, and this is the issue. We actually talked about these champions in the podcast, and the thing that happened to Skarner and then the thing that happened to Garen is they touched these champions really quickly before they were going to get released, and they iterated them so many times. And like the Skarner E change wasn't even live when we covered Skarner, when he stunned on his E, and a couple of the Garen changes weren't live and stuff like that, but. Why is Gary's not good? Because he's no attack speed to stack his passive, and his Q is a huge delay so the other team can play around it. Like, he pulls his Q behind his back, and then, like, just, you know what he's going to do. So you can run on top of him and not tank the blade, and then it doesn't do anything because you have to hit the blade now. Or you can just run away because you see him pull the axe. It's just, his Q is telegraphed super hard, and like, he does have more potential if he gets 5 stacks and he goes monster mode, but it's so much harder to get 5 stacks now because his attack speed is so bad. Riven, this wall is really thick. Usually you go like here or here. Like this part of the dragon wall, Baron wall is thinner. But the walls in Summoner Rift are kind of weird at times. Like, the issue with Darius before is he didn't have counterplay, besides kiting him late game and camping him early game. The issue with Darius now is he has too much counterplay. Like, his Q is way too easy to play around. Garen's actually okay because of how hard his spin scales late game. I didn't think it would scale that hard late game. I underestimated it, so I was a little bit wrong covering that, but, well. Note on the Rek'Sai. You really don't want Dead Man's Plate here. So Dead Man's Plate's pretty good. But a lot of what it gives you isn't effective tankiness. It's pretty expensive, and it just gives 600 health, 50 armor, as opposed to Randuin's, which has like the slow and some other things. And like generally when you're behind, you don't get to build Dead Man's Plate. Unless you're a champion that really, really needs it. So, at least second item. I would have probably gotten Randuin's here. Hex Shrinkers also would have been a decent buy for him, but he's a little behind for that. So. Yeah, no problem, boss. You got it. And Zach is going for an engage on background and stuff. Really greedy, but he has passive, so. Really, like the thing I said earlier in the game that red team need to do to come back is punish the other team under towers. And like this, right now they're punishing the other team under tower, but they're never grouped and their whole team is never there. They tried to pick a fight here where they weren't under tower, and they tried to fight man down under tower here, and it just didn't work out well. Just any point when you're winning or losing, it's important to have a game plan and stick to that game plan. For the losing team, your game plan was really to play around towers and to try and come back with like stacking your crowd control or something like that. And you guys didn't do that, so that's kind of where you guys faltered. And the winning team, you guys kind of played by your game plan, but you kind of just abused item lead. I wasn't a huge fan of some of the plays, but it wasn't played poorly. So good game to everybody. So that heal on Darius, so every time I go to kill him, he slows me at the E, then aims the blade, and I'm done. Well. Alright, I guess it's not working. So the heal on Darius, if you don't get hit by the blade, it's not bad. But if he's slowing you and then he does, it's more difficult. Question in chat, and we will load up the advanced details in a second. Where can I find the VODs of the game to watch later? You can check it out on Twitch, past broadcasts. So you go to twitch.tforcepodcast. You click the T-Force podcast, and you can check past broadcasts. This is the fastest way to check them. The other way you can check them is you can go to Make sure nothing crazy comes up on my YouTube. T-Force Podcast on YouTube. Playlists. And you can check out the Bronze Bootcamp. And there's also a Battle Arena one here. If you want to check out some other stuff on YouTube, you can check out my stuff. I'll throw the link in chat. Some decent educational videos. So talked about last hitting in this game. This is where I would send somebody to go to work on last hitting. Guide to laddering, guide to understanding LP, MMR. Just interesting stuff if that's kind of what you want to get into. So we're into the game. A couple things for each person to work on. Sivir, biggest thing is an AD carrier, the one who's responsible for lane control, and you really need to understand the matchup and understand what you're going to do in the lane. As Sivir, a lot of lanes you do want to push. You're playing with the Blitzcrank, who is Ignite, against a Nami as Exhaust, so you really want to win lane and kill them, and it's pretty hard to hook them out of tower and kill them, whereas if you kind of freeze in the middle of lane, it's much easier. So I would work on your lane control and know like in what matchups you need to freeze and what matchups you don't need to freeze. Question in chat, what is Battle Arena? It's like Bronze Bootcamp, but it's for everybody Gold 1 and below. So, other notes for Sivir, really work on auto attack resetting with your W. As a Sivir player, you should be able to do that mechanically. And anytime you're like in a really close fight and you're not sure if you're going to hit Q or not, be careful going for it. Because it's the same as Caitlyn. A lot of times it's better to go for the auto attack and hit it than go for the Q and miss it. So, not a lot to say though. Like you guys did win lane really hard. Work on CS and work on lane control. And in all honesty, like until Diamond 1, the two biggest things you can work on as an AD carry is last hitting and lane control. And for the comment in chat earlier, I usually do ban people in chat, or somebody else does ban people in chat. The issue I have is if I ban them, then the game freezes for a second because I have to tab out. I use full screen. So when I'm in game, unfortunately, I can't ban them. Katarina, when you play against Veigar and you really want Mercury Cheds, this game especially, they had Veigar, Cho'Gath, Nami. Mercury Cheds affect Bubble, Cho'Gath, Silence, and Veigar Stun. If Veigar Stun is slowed, really hard for him to land that W after stun. It puts a lot more pressure onto him as a Veigar player. So I would really recommend Mercury Cheds into the Veigar matchup. As for that, you played pretty well. I think as a Katarina player, you really need to buy more wards too. And I don't know, you had some good roam spot and you played well. Nothing stood out to me as bad. Once again, trying to cover this by myself, and you guys won really hard, so it's difficult. Riven, I think the build is really greedy. I think that's about it. As far as lane goes, I didn't see anything. Wow, why is my phone going off? I didn't see anything that stuck out to me as terrible. I mean, you did just stomp lane and snowballed, and you had good teleports. Just, I don't know. Rarely I have games where I can't give anybody a ton of feedback, but this is kind of one of them. The one thing you could have done is if you go TP into an Ignite lane, you can go camp start, but like I guess you don't even have to go camp start here, because if you go camp start and you get ganked, you get punished too hard by Ignite lane. So like I think you generally played well. The one thing is when you got your first blood, you didn't use any of your health pots. So remember to use health pots, because you had 5 pots and you were at like level 4 with no health at the time. So Blitzcrank. Swifties are pretty bad. Just buy Mobies when you play Blitzcrank. I know they're annoying to play around with the Blitzcrank passive, but Mobies are much stronger. Support, you want to pressure the map, and you just want to be able to do everything faster. The Swifties are also more expensive, and they really don't offer a lot more. So the Zac, I think the build is good. I think it got greedy. You were building AP because you're ahead, but yeah. I also really prefer getting an extra sweeper. I think if you're stomping really hard, 3 sweepers is better, and as a jungler, you can get those 3 sweepers. So maybe an extra sweeper here, and I really don't think you bought that many green wards. So no, you didn't buy a single green ward. And that's kind of the biggest thing I saw out of this team is they didn't buy any green wards. But for the 7th consecutive game, red team. Yep. The team that warded more did win. So I've only been counting this 7 games, but 7 bronze boot camps and battle arenas in a row. The team that warded more has won. So 7 out of 7 just by wards. We'll cover those before we get to red team. So one of the big things I look for is stealth wards purchased. A lot of times people can argue that, oh, I ward with my greater stealth totem, I don't need to buy green wards. The issue with that is you can't buy greater stealth totem until level 9. So if somebody has 0 green wards in this column, that means they only warded with this tier 1 trinket, the warding totem, until level 9. And that's really, really bad. You really should be buying green wards, and the fact that nobody besides Katarina bought greens is pretty inexcusable. Katarina actually bought 7, which is pretty good. And they bought their pinks, and they did a pretty good job, but I don't know. It certainly could have been improved. Zach, also, when you're winning really hard, try and deny the Wraith buff from the other jungler. So, what if first back you got Sightstone? Once again, I'm sorry to leave that out, but the green ward rule really doesn't apply to supports and AD carries that much. As an AD carry, oftentimes when you buy a ward, you shouldn't be buying greens, you're usually buying pinks. As a support, you usually get Sightstone first buy. And you really don't want to buy 1 green ward at the start as a support. 4 wards is usually better. 4 potions, not wards. So, red team, Vigar. Big note for red team, so I don't have to stress it for everybody. You really, really want to be working on CS. And you don't go for 3-pot 1 mana. Oftentimes you go 4 biscuit. I think 4 biscuit's quite a bit better. Health can often be traded for mana. If you look at most support skills, like John or Tornado, it costs 90 mana and does 60 damage. It's a pretty bad example because it's not an efficient spell. But you could auto attack, and you would eat an auto attack in return, but you're making a better trade for health and mana. And it's a lot better to need mana than it is to need health in lane 2. So HP pots are quite a bit safer. I think there are some supports you can go 3 HP pot 1 mana on, but I think like about half of them biscuits usually better. So entire red team work on CS. I linked my YouTube. The CS guide there is it's what I do to warm up before games, and it's a pretty good resource. So I would check that out. And I think that, I hate to say it and I hate to throw it off on that, but like, you guys really fell behind in items, just not last sitting. Every 15, 16 CS is worth about a kill. So like this Sivir had 97 CS on the Sivir. That's like 6.5 or 6.25 kills. So like it does add up. And the Vigar last hitting, there are points where you never came back with health pots against Katarina. Katarina wants to poke you out into a range where she can kill you, and if you don't have health pots to deal with that Q harass, that's really bad. Coming back to lane with 5 mana pots over and over again is also bad. As far as teleport usage, teleport's a decent take here as Vigar. Some people might flame me for it, it's a bronze thing, but against somebody like Katarina or Twisted Fate, teleport's effective because you can TP bot and you can just counteract pressure over and over again. But if you use TP to come to lane, that's really, really bad. So, just, if you take TP mid, take it to pressure the map. Don't take it to continue to come back mid. And don't ever buy 5 mana pots again. So, as far as the Cho'Gath is concerned, I talked about the build path a couple of times, so you can go back and listen to that in the game. TLDR, if you fall behind and you find yourself with like a Sapphire Crystal and a Ruby Crystal, don't be afraid to build a Sapphire Crystal on something like Heart and sit on the Ruby, or vice versa. The crystals are pretty versatile items, and if you're 0-2, 0-3, don't feel like you have to finish that Route of Ages. So, I also talked about it earlier in the game. If you struggle against the Riven, Frozen Heart's pretty effective. And you really, really need to be taking teleport as a top laner, especially as Cho'Gath and a Riven. Yeah, I think that's about it. As far as the Nami's concerned, It's difficult. I actually didn't see you do a lot besides be like way too squishy most of the game. I would say upgrading Frost Queens is pretty bad here. I think you want an item that gives you some tankiness, but still offers something to your team. Like as a support, you don't build Sunfire, you don't build randoms, you don't build stuff like that. I really like Zeke's Herald on Nami right now, so I might try that out. It gives a little bit of AP, it gives some armor, it gives some mana. Locket wouldn't have been a bad buy here. They had quite a bit of magic damage with Blitzcrank, Katarina, and Zac. So all those things would have been decent. But the upgrading Frost Queens as quickly as you can, it kind of sealed your fate into dying 9 times. 1335 gold is rough. Talisman's okay. Talisman wouldn't have been a bad buy here. It depends how far you go into your Spell Thief build and what other items you really need. I may or may not have gotten it. Your options here were probably Talisman or Zeke's though. So Talisman, Zeke's, Locket wouldn't have been bad either. Jinx, really need to work on last hitting. You really need to buy Scrying Orb. I think that's about it. Like, if you play a late game carry and your last hitting is poor, you can't expect to win a lot of games. And as many other things as I can give you to work on, that's paramount, the most important thing you can work on. It's going to give you 10 times more impact than anything else I can tell you. So, I'm not going to overload you with other stuff. Just, I work on last thing. Rek'Sai, really need to upgrade your totem, and you really need to buy wards. You didn't buy a lot of wards. You really need to be smiting raptors a lot more, and this goes for both jungles. And the Dead Man's Plate doesn't give a lot of effective tankiness. So, and upgrading your boots. Just, you dropped a decent amount of gold into your build and you didn't get a lot out of it. And remember, anytime you leave a lane, creeps are like wards. And if you let the creeps see where you're going, they know where you're going. If you walk out, until you're out of line of sight and then decide where you want to go, then you can change where you're going. So, why is Scrying Orb so good on AD carry? So, it's good for a couple reasons. One, you don't have to face check if you use Scrying Orb. And a lot of AD carries struggle to check bushes. Or if they check a bush, like if you check a bush with W and Jinx, they can just flash and kill you sometimes. So it's good for that. A lot of times you get into team fights, people are running in and out of bushes, and it's difficult to click them. You want to be using attack move click to attack move click people in bushes. But when they're in a bush, even if you're attack move clicking, if you can't see them, you can't click them. And especially in low elo, but in any elo, your support or your teammates may or may not be warding that bush for you to click or kill those threats, and being able to use the Scrying Orb on a bush in a team fight and then continue auto attacking the target and not lose line of sight is really strong. So face checking and team fighting are the 2 big reasons. So that about covers it for game 1. I'll start sending out invites for game 2. The stream will go down for a couple of minutes, prior 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll see you guys there.